Hello and welcome to Full Court Press on Mason County Press. I'm Alan Neushwander. We're joined here today with Vic Burwell at the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame out at White Pine Village. Vic, you're the president of the Sports Hall of Fame. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you very much. It's just great to be here, Alan, and I want to thank Mason County Press for the way they have just given us great coverage over the years because frankly, if it wasn't for the coverage that we get, these athletes wouldn't have had a chance to ever be recognized. So they'd just be playing in a gym. But this is really important that you guys would take time and talk to us. And particularly, this is an exciting weekend because this is induction of the class of 2022, which is the 18th class that we've done. So it's exciting weekend coming up.
Absolutely. We're happy to be here. And we also want to mention our sponsor, which is Spectrum Health Ludington Hospital Orthopedics. So they make all of this possible so we can come out here and talk about this event. And you did say, Vic, this weekend we've got the induction ceremony. This is the 18th year that we've had the induction ceremony for Mason County Sports Hall of Fame. Do you want to just touch briefly on a little bit about the history of the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame?
Sure, I'd love to. It started with an idea between Lloyd Wallace and I, and it was at center court of a basketball game in about 2001. And I said, we ought to have a Hall of Fame. And he says, yeah, we got a lot of good athletes. And so that was about it. 3 years later, we met at a basketball game, and I said, we never did do anything about that. And then in 2004, I got a bunch of business and community leaders and Lloyd Wallace and some other media people, and we said, boy, we should do something to recognize our sports heritage. And I've always felt it was important to recognize and to remember all of the fun and achievement that individual has had. So that was the gestation of it, and the first class was 2005, and we had to miss 2 years of COVID, but we did have a class virtually in 2021. And we had a class in 2020. So that was exciting. And in 2021, we had the 100th anniversary of the Ludington Mariners, the year that they played in the World Series. And most people didn't even know we had a Ludington Mariners, let alone a team that played in the World Series, let alone a team that had 4 of the best 5 pitchers in the whole league. And then we had another great class. So it's been exciting remembering everybody and just sharing that joy with the people of Mason County.
Absolutely. And each year you induct usually about 6 people. How hard is it to narrow it down to 6 people? Because we do have, like you say, a really rich heritage in sports here in Mason County.
We do have, and it's interesting that you asked that, and just briefly, we have a 24-member board, and we have about 250 people that have either been All-American, All-States, multiple All-Conferences. We very seldom, I don't know if we've ever had anybody that wasn't an All-State athlete, unless it was a unique individual like Bob Wolf, that was an archer, and so what we do is each individual on our board gets 6 votes, and they get to nominate 6 people, and we take those votes, and over a series of 6 weeks we narrow it down to the final 20. And then you have to get 2/3 of the 24-member votes, or 16 votes. And if you get 16 votes, you get inducted into the Hall of Fame. If you get 15, you don't make it. But you always, as long as if you ever make at least 1 vote, you're always on what we call the short list. So your name will be brought up every year, but it is possible someone could bring up somebody completely new. And so that's how we do it. It takes 6 weeks to select each class each year.
Sure, it's kind of neat too. You mentioned you've got people doing archery and different sports. So it's really all different sports. It's all different schools representing the entire county. So it's not just focused on Ludington or one specific area. You're looking at Free Soil and Custer and Scottville and everything in between. So.
Well, that is right, and particularly this year, it's a classic example of what you just said, because we're inducting Al Hardman, for gosh sakes. Yeah. Now, Al graduated in Canada and in high school, and he really wasn't an athlete how we would look at athletes, but when he got to be later in his life and he created his own company, and he said, I'd like to do some dog sled racing. Well, I mean, believe me, there is no place in the world that you're going to race a dog any more prestigious than the Iditarod. Right. And here's a guy that did it 4 times, and he had very great showings, and so he's inducted into a Hall of Fame. And then you get someone like Lightford Young, who graduated in 1955, and if there was ever an athlete that people know little about, it was Lightford Young. And here's a guy that was all-state basketball twice. He was all-state track twice. He was Mr. Everything. He had 12 varsity letters, even when he was a freshman. And as Max Carey said, if there was ever an athlete in Mason County that was a pure athlete, Lightford Young is that guy. So, you know, it's taken 18 years to get in, but he's in.
Sure. Well, you've mentioned a couple of the inductees for this weekend. Go ahead and mention maybe the other 4.
Sure. We're very honored to introduce what I think and induct Mike Evans, who is clearly the premier basketball player of the early 60s. I mean, Mike Evans was he was like a surfer guy from California that lived in Ludington. He was handsome. He had a personality. He was multiple talented in all kinds of athletics, but he focused on basketball. And he was all state, and he was all conference, and he was like the no-look passer and jump shoot artist before those things were even known about. I mean, he was like a Magic Johnson before there was a Magic Johnson, you know. And we're honored to induct Mike Evans. Unfortunately, he's deceased, and but we're going to remember him forever. And the other 3 candidates, one is Jill Trimmer. She won 16 varsity letters in high school. Now you say, how do you do that? Well, she does that because they also included being a cheerleader. So she won a varsity letter every year in high school, plus being a cheerleader 4 years. And she went on to be the first female to be given a scholarship at Ferris. She was the most valuable player in track at Ferris. She set a state record in shot put. She threw the discus. She transferred to Grand Valley. She tossed or threw the javelin there. So Jill Trimmel and she played on softball teams, and she's just missed everything. And then you get a guy like Bob Cameron. You know, he was a successful businessman, and most people remember Bob as a wrestler. He was 37-0 at 165 or 167 pounds, and he was 37-0. He led his team that year. They were state runner-up teams. They were the state runner-up wrestling championship team, and here's a wrestler, but he also ran cross country, and for goodness sakes, he ran a mile in 4 minutes and 30 seconds. Now, how many wrestlers run miles in 4 minutes and 30 seconds? And then, you know, after that, he decides, well, I think I want to just keep doing stuff. So he becomes an All-American fast-pitch softball player. He played on a World Championship NAAFA team, the Kelder Poured Walls, with Jeff Barnett. Jeff Barnett is in her Hall of Fame. What's really unique about Bobby Cameron is his son Kyle was selected 1 year as the high school athlete of the year. So it's going to be kind of fun to have Kyle be in our touchscreen as a high school athlete. Now his dad's in there as a Hall of Famer. And certainly, last but not least, is Christy Christmas. And I'm not even sure where to begin on her, but she was multiple conference champion, multiple all-conference in 3 different sports: volleyball, basketball, softball. She went on to be a varsity athlete at Cornerstone, and listen, she won 12 varsity letters in college. Now, tell me one person that you know that's won 12 varsity letters in college. Volleyball, softball, and basketball. And, you know, she was a rebounding leader. You know, she was just Miss Everything. She's inducted into their Hall of Fame, Cornerstone Hall of Fame. You know, she was 6. I'm going to not do justice to how many times she was softball coach of the year for Mason County Central. She had a wonderful career. 300 victories, if I'm not mistaken, you know. So we have a great class that could very well have been the first class, not the 18th class.
Sure. Yeah.
So it's a great class.
Yeah, and lots of events going on, full day of festivities this weekend for the induction. Obviously, that's tickets only. I'm assuming it's sold out by now.
Yep, the banquet is sold out, but here at noon at historic White Pine Village, we have what's called the Unveiling, and this is where the athletes, right inside this hall, and you can see their banners up here. This is where we start the event off, and we introduce them to the Hall of Fame. We show them the touchscreen. We show them their plaques. They're the first ones that get to see that. So it starts here at noon. That's free. You better get a little here early because there'll be a lot of people here. And then at 6 o'clock is the banquet.
Okay, perfect. And for folks that maybe can't make it out this weekend, obviously, they can come out here to White Pine Village and tour the Sports Hall of
Sure.
Fame. What do you got for the hours, Vic?
Well, the hours out here Tuesday through Saturday, and it opens at 10 and closes at 4:30. And it's a wonderful place, and we're happy to be a part of Historic White Pine Village and the Mason County Historical Society. Their mission is to preserve heritage. Our mission is to preserve the sports heritage of Mason County, and we focus now on not only just the heritage, but we focus on the life lessons that you learn from sports, and like leadership and teamwork and perseverance and dedication and overcoming adversity. And if you want to have a fun time, come out and spend an hour at the Beyond the Game, the Value of Sports, and grasp what we try to show people, that it's the things that you learn from sports that prepares you for life, and that's one of the things that we focus on here.
All right, perfect. All right, Vic, thank you so much for joining us today. Vic Burwell, president of the Mason County Sports Hall of Fame. They've got their 18th annual induction ceremony coming up this weekend. And for the Full Court Press on Mason County Press, I'm Alan Neushwander, and once again want to thank our sponsor for today's program, Spectrum Health Ludington Hospital Orthopedics.